Okay, now I'm going to start reviewing for your next test, okay? You have to solve the inequality and then graph. You don't have to label the graph, cross that out, okay? So, you only can have one single x. Well, you have two, so mark where the smaller one's at and then either add or subtract that. So it's a positive. To get rid of it, we would have to subtract it because 5x minus 5x would be 0. So now we have 3x plus 2, the inequality symbol, and then a negative 7. Okay, now you want to circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So this means 3 times x plus 2. So the multiplying part gets circled. Now decide if the sign's going to flip. The number in the circle, is it negative or positive? Okay, is there a negative in the circle? No, there's not. So no, don't flip the sign. Okay, so down here we're not going to flip it. So now we solve, we keep it lined up though. So 3 dot x, negative 7 minus 2 is negative 9. Then I divide. Now after I divide, I can come down here. Okay, we have x. Remember, x is over here, so keep it over there. And then negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. Now you graph it. Those are the tell you how to graph it. So negative 3. The sign opens towards a number. So when it opens towards a number, it's going this way. It will not be filled in. Okay, next one. You can only have one single x, which we do. It's right there. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So this means 2 times x plus 1. So I circle the multiplied part. Now decide if the sign needs to flip. Is there a negative in that circle? No, it's a positive. So the answer is no, so don't flip the sign. Is there a negative in the circle? No, there's not. So keep the sign the same. Now solve, but keep it lined up. So we minus 1, 2 dot x over here, negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. Then I divide, and now the x is by itself, so I come down here. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So circle, you're going to fill that in, and it opens towards the x, so it goes that way. Okay, my next problem. So x appears just one time. Now circle the part on the x side that's multiplied. You have negative 2 times x plus 7. Now decide if the sign should flip. Do you have a negative in that circle? Yup. So the sign has to go the other way. Alright, now solve. Keep it lined up. Get the x. Solve means get the x by itself. So minus 7, minus 7. So you got negative 2 times x, and then 45 minus 7 is 38. Then I divide, and now the x is going to be by itself, so the x is here, so write it here. 38 divided by negative 2 is negative 19. Circle, fill it, and it opens towards the x, so it goes this way. So x can be any number going that way. Okay, next problem. You can only have one x, which we do. It's right there, over on that side. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided. So I got 5 times x. Now do we have a negative in there? No, so we don't flip the sign. We keep it the same way. So we plus 2. Keep it lined up. The 10 goes here, the 5x goes here. Then divide by 5. I have x with 2. Okay. So 2, I don't fill in the circle. It opens towards a number, so it goes this way. Okay, my next problem, first off, those parentheses cannot be there, okay? You need to apply the distributive property. So we distribute, we know we have 50. So first I take 5 and 5, first times the 3x, then times the negative, the 2, okay? So it's going to be 15x, so I write that down, cross that out, and then it's a minus. 5 times 2 equals 10, so it's 15x minus 10. Okay, now that the parentheses are gone, circle the part that's multiplied or divided, so you have multiply with your x by 15. Now is that a negative in the circle? No, so don't flip the sign, keep it the same way. Okay, so first I add 10. That gives us 60. And don't come down here till the x is by itself. Now divide by 15. And now x is by itself. 60 divided by 15 is 4. Circle, we're not going to fill it. It opens towards the x, so it goes this way. All right, next problem. You can only have a single x, which we do, it's right there. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one, so you have division. So do we have a negative in that circle? No, we don't. I don't see a negative, so we don't flip the sign. Keep it the same way. Okay, then I solve, keep it lined up. The only thing I have to do to solve it, I only have one operation divided by 2, so I times 2, and then times 2 here. Now the x is by itself, so I can put it, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Circle, don't fill it in, it opens towards a number. Okay, so it goes that way. Okay, and I'll keep going here. First off, these parentheses got to go. Okay, so I distribute. So negative 3 is what I'm distributing. So I take negative 3 times 4 first. And then negative 3 times negative 1x. Okay, that is a negative 1x. So that's going to give me negative 12. And that's going to give me positive 3x. Okay. Now, I like to put my x first, so 3x minus 12. Now, we also have parentheses here, so we'll have to distribute that. So I'm distributing my 2 times 4x and times negative 14. So that's 8x, and that's negative 28. So I put my 8x first and then minus 28 because it's negative. Okay, now the parentheses are gone. You can only have one single x. Again, you have 2 of them. So mark your smaller one, and that's the one we'll get rid of. So it's positive, so to get it to 0, I'd subtract it. And then I subtract it from the 8x. So keep it lined up. You have negative 12 on that side. 8x minus 3x is 5x, and then minus 28. Okay, now circle the part that is multiplied or divided if there is one. So look at the x, you have a times 5. You have a negative in the circle. No, you don't. So again, you leave the sign the same. Just put it down there, and I don't come here till after the x is by itself. So first I have to plus 28 to the negative 12, so line up your symbol. You don't come down here yet because your x wouldn't be by itself. It's still got the times 5. Negative 12 plus 28 is 16. And now I can divide. And now the x is by itself. Okay? Put it there though, okay? Because that's where the x is, so you got to put it there. Okay, 16 divided by 5 is a decimal. 3.2. So I solved it. I got 3.2. Circle, you would fill it, and it opens towards the number, so it's going that way. Okay, next problem. can only have a single x. We have a single x. That's good. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided. So this operation's multiplied. Do you have a negative in that circle? Yes, so you need to flip the sign. Okay, so remember how I do a fraction with a multiplication. I just have the times operation, so I put times, times, and I flip the fraction to 3 over 1. And if there's a negative, you also got to put a negative, okay? So those cross out, and now I have x by itself. Now remember how you deal with this over here. You put a 1 under your 2, and we take 2 times negative 3. And then 1 times 1 is 1. Don't forget the negative. If you have a negative there, you have to put it here as well. And negative 6 divided by 1 is negative 6. Okay. Now x is by itself, so we have negative 6. I wouldn't color it in. It opens up towards the x, so it would go this way. Okay, then some more. You can only have one single x, which we do. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So over here, this is multiplication, so I want to circle that. Now, do we have a negative in the circle? Yes, there's a negative in the circle, so yes, you flip the sign. And all you have to do is divide, okay? And then the x is by itself. There's only one operation, so x, 18 divided by negative 2 is negative 9. Circle, you wouldn't fill it. It opens towards a number, so it goes that way. Okay, next one. Could only have a single x, which we do. Okay, also one thing, I kind of screwed this up here. Cross that out. Okay, cross that out. I want to rewrite the problem. Negative 6x plus 7, 19. Just write that. Okay, that's the problem we want to start with. Okay, you can only have one single x, which we do. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. Okay, so yeah, you got negative 6 times x plus 7. Okay, now decide if the sign should flip. Is it going to flip in the end? Well, is there a negative in that circle that we made? Yes, you want to flip the sign. Now we solve for the x. We just undo the plus 7, so the opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. But I still have to keep going because there's still that negative 6 there. And I divide by the negative 6. So x is on this side. Put the x on the side it's on. Don't switch it to the other side. Okay. 12 divided by negative 6 is negative 2. Okay. So negative 2 is what I graph. And it opens up towards the x, so it goes that way. Okay, my next one, 6x minus 15, and then this greater than or equal to 4x plus 11. So we have two different x's. We can only have a single x. So I go to the smaller one and get rid of that. It's a positive, so I want to minus it. And now I have 2x minus 15 is 11. Now, after you get it down, simplify it so there's only a single x. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So over here you got 2 and x. That means 2 times x minus 15. So we have to decide if the sign should flip. Do you have a negative in that circle? Nope. So it's not going to switch. It's going to be the same. So minus 15, I go plus 15. 11 plus 15 is 26. And then we can divide by 2. Okay, so we have 13 as a critical number. Fill in the circle, and it opens towards the x, so it goes this way. Alright, now, in the next part, when you see two symbols, you need to make your table, because you need to separate it and solve two of them separately. So here's my first symbol, and there's my second. So I put 9 over here, and then negative 1x plus 6. I put negative 1x plus 6 and 12. Okay, so what do we have going on here? Well, you can only have one single x, which we do, it's right there. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. Well, over here that's a negative 1 times x plus 6, so I circled just the times part. Decide if the sign's going to flip, okay? Well, there's a negative in that circle, so if there's a negative in that circle, then yes, we flip the sign. So you got plus 6, you're going to minus 6. Don't go here yet, because it's not by itself. You still got the negative 1 times x. And that's 3. Now divide. And now you can go down here, but you got to have the x on this side. Okay, you can't switch it to the other side. 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. Okay, so we'll graph that. Over here, you can only have one single x, which we do. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So that means negative 1 times x plus 6. We need an operation, so I circle the times operation. And is there a negative in that circle? Yes, so you flip the sign. So plus 6, we need to minus 6. That's going to be 6, and then negative 1 times x. Then I divide by negative 1, and then I come down here. So I have x, 6 divided by negative 1 is negative 6. So these are my two numbers. I have negative 3, and I also got negative 6. So I circle above the negative 3, I fill it in, and it opens towards the number. So it's going that way. Okay, now the negative 6 circle, but I don't fill it in because there's no line. It opens towards the x, so it goes this way, and then they run into each other, and that's what you have. X can be any number between here and here. It could be equal to that, but not to the negative 6. Okay, and then I have two other symbols, so we make our table. So that means there's going to be two numbers on this number line I figure out. I screwed this one up. You need to get, I don't want an x on that 3 right there. And then we can go. So on one side I have 4x plus 3, the symbol and 1. Then I have negative 5x with the symbol and 25. So look at just this column. You can only have one single x. We do, there it is. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So that's a times operation. That's a plus, so we just want to circle the times. Do you have a negative in that circle? No, so don't flip the sign. Now solve it. Minus 3, 4 dot x. 1 minus 3 is negative 2, and then I divide by the 4. Okay, by the number that's dotted with the x. That's the one I divide by. The answer there is not negative 2. We take negative 2 divided by 4, and I get negative 0.5. Okay, so that's my first part of the solution. Now over here you can only have one single x, which you do. You circle the part that's multiplied or divided, so I need a times operation there. So I circle that, and there's a negative in the circle. So if there's a negative in the circle, that sign has got to be flipped the other way. Then I solve it, so I divide by negative 5. And now the x is by itself, so I can come here. It's That's negative 5. Okay. So you have negative 0.5, which is close to the 0, and then we have negative 5. So I circle there, fill it in, and it opens towards the x. So if it opens towards the x, it needs to go that way. Circle, don't fill in that one. This one opens towards the number, the negative 5, so it goes this way from the negative 5. So they spread out. The graph here is the opposite of what was here. Okay, now story problems. We're going to flip this over. I'm going to do some various story problems. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 to do. Test doesn't have that many. Test only has 3. My goal, if you see goal, okay, in science class is to earn an 84 average on my tests. So far I've earned 73, 95, and 87 on tests. Write and solve an inequality that represents the possible scores I can get on my next test and meet my goal. So goal means we start off with this sign. And your goal is 84. Now it says average rules. So you do what you did yesterday and make an expression for the average. So far you got 73 plus 95 plus 87. Then we're about to take another test plus x. Now that's 4 tests. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you divide them by 4. So down here, but we don't know what the x is, so I put over 4 and I put the x first, okay? And then I add the tests I've already taken. So I take 73 plus 95 plus 87, so that's 255. Okay, now when I have a big fraction and there's an operation on top of it, I want to put that in parentheses, okay? Now I can't distribute the 4 because it's not here, it's underneath. So what's underneath I times 4 so it goes away, and then I times 4 on the other side. So x plus 255, I don't need the parentheses anymore. And then 80, I got to figure out what 84 times 4 is. 336. Okay, now all that's been done. You only have a single x. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. Well, there isn't one. It's just a plus 255, so the sign stays the same. You don't have, so we don't have, no, you wouldn't flip the sign because we didn't even make a circle because there was no multiplying or dividing. Solve, keep it lined up, okay? So I've got x. And 336 minus 255 is 81. So you have to score 81 or higher. Okay, make your number line. Put your 81. And it opens towards the x, so it goes that way. So you have to score 81 or more. Okay, next problem. A drama club has a goal to raise at least $500 in ticket sales for its show. Student tickets cost $3 each and adult tickets cost $5 each. The club has sold 50 student tickets and are now sold out of them. Write and solve an inequality that represents the possible numbers of adult tickets sold to meet the goal. So it's goal. And what is our goal? Our goal is $500. So I wrote a money sign up here. I want you to write the $2 amounts. You got $3 and $5. But those have to be times, okay? Because $3 is for the student tickets. Do I know how many student tickets I sold? Yes, I do. I know 50. The $5 is for the adult tickets. Do I know how many of those I sold? No, that's because that's what I'm figuring out. So X. Okay. So 5 times x is 5x, and 3 times 50 is 150. So I write 5x plus 150. Okay, it can only have a single x, which we do. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one, so 5 and x would be times. And there's not a negative there, so no, there's not a negative. Don't flip the sign, keep it the same way. And then minus 150, minus 150. So 500 minus 150 is 350, and then I divide by 5. I have x and 70. Now, if you're wondering what the label is, read the last sentence. Write and solve an inequality that represents the possible numbers of adult tickets to meet their goals. So the labels that we just found is adult tickets. Okay, so it's always in the last sentence it tells you the label. So you don't see dollars in the last sentence. So 0, 70. Opens towards the x, so it's going that way. Okay, next problem. At a craft fair, a stand is selling necklaces and bracelets. We have a goal to raise at least $1,000. Necklaces are sold for $4 each, and bracelets are sold for $5 each. We have sold 100 bracelets and are now sold out of them. Write and solve an inequality that represents the number of necklaces I need to sell to meet my goal. So again, goal is that. So what is our goal? Our goal is $1,000. Now line up the dollar signs. You got 4 and 5, but we have to multiply those because I'm selling the necklaces for $4. How many necklaces am I selling? That's what I times by. I don't know that. Hundreds bracelets. So X there. X is the necklaces. Okay. And then $5 for the bracelets. There's 100 bracelets. So 4 times X is 4X. 5 times 100 is 500. So it's 4X plus 500. Okay, now you can only have one single X. It's right there. Circle the part that's multiplied or divided if there is one. So yeah, you got 4 times x, but there's not a negative in there. Okay, just that part, I don't see a negative, so I keep the sign the same. So I minus 500, and 1,000 minus 500 is 500. And then I divide by 4. So 500 divided by 4 is 125. If you're wondering about the label, read the last sentence, okay? Write and solve an inequality that represents the number of necklaces I need to sell. So it's necklaces. Because that's what we didn't know. Remember, the necklaces cost $4, and I couldn't multiply because I didn't know how many there were. That's why I had to use the letter. Circle fill it, and it opens towards the X, so it goes that way. So I can sell starting here, anything over there meets the goal. All right, next one. I have 500 feet of fence to put around a food plot. The length of the food plot is 110 feet, right? And solve an inequality that represents the possible widths of the plot. Okay, so this time it's what you have. So have is the other sign. So how much do you have? You have 500 feet. Now come up here, and on this rectangle, because you're going to put all 500 of that feet around here, at least you think. You can put less than 500, but you can't put more because you only have 500. So the length is 110. So cross those L's out and put 110. Okay, so there's two 110s, so I take 110 times 2 and then W times 2. So 110 times 2 is 220, and then W times 2 is 2W. So we put 2W first, plus 220. Okay, now solve it. Instead of X, you have W. So there's the multiplication, but it's positive again. So I need to minus 220 That's 280, and you got 2 times W. So I divide by 2. 280 divided by 2 is 140. Okay. Now, if you're wondering about the label, it says, read the last sentence. Write an inequality that represents the possible widths of the plot. Just put width. Okay. Okay, this time it opens towards the number. Okay, so when it opens towards a number, we go back this way. So you could have 140 or anything less. Okay, you have 48 feet of trim to put all the way around a rectangular banner that's 18 feet long. Write and solve an inequality that represents the possible widths of the banner. So again, you're talking about something you have, so you can't use more than what you have, so that's why it's that simple. So you have 48 because you can't go over 48. Now the banner's 18 feet long, so I need to cross those L's out and put 18s in their places. So we would have 18 times 2 because there's 2 of them, and W times 2. I don't know what W is, but I know there's 2 of them. So 18 times 2 is 36, and W times 2 is 2W. Put 2W, don't put W2. So 2W plus 36. Now circle the multiplying, the variable that's multiplied, positive again, so we keep the sign the same. Don't switch it if you don't have a negative, you don't switch it. So that's 12, and we have 2 times W. Now we divide by 2. We have W, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay. So, read the last sentence. Write and solve an inequality that represents the possible widths of the banner. So you just put width. So the W's can be 6 or anything less than 6, as you're going to see on the graph. Okay, opens towards the numbers, so we're going that way. Okay, last problem. My goal in history class is to earn an average of 90 for my tests. So far I've scored 95, 84, 96, and 89. Write and solve an inequality that represents what I would need to score on my next test to meet my goal. So the goal, we put a greater than symbol. And what is my goal? 90. Now you're talking about average, so come up here and write an expression for the average. So we have 95 plus 84 plus 96 plus 89. We're about to take another test, but we don't know what we're going to get on it, so plus X. So how many tests is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 tests. So we have divided by 5, but I can't divide by 5 because I don't know what the X is. I can add the rest of them up, but I still don't know what that X is. So I take 95 plus 84 plus 96 plus 89. I get 364. Now remember, we're going to have to put a parentheses around that, okay? Now we want to get rid of parentheses, but I can't do the rainbows. Instead, I have to do the opposite of divide by 5, which is times 5. And then that goes away. Now I don't need the parentheses. I just have X plus 364. Then 90 times 5 is 450. Now solve it. You don't have a times or a divide operation, so that sign would stay the same. Now you just get rid of the plus 364, minus it. So 450 minus 364 is 86. So when you graph it, it opens towards the X, so we go that way. So it can be 86 or anything that way to meet my goal, to get what happened, what I want to. 86, 87, 88 goes on.